when you introduce me as Joker, can you leave out the duh? Hello, it's Jeff Nerd Show. I am not the Joker. I'm a cannibalistic clown. Campbell. Today I'm talking about Terrifier, the Terrifier movies. Why? Because I saw Terrifier 3, and it's Halloweeny time. I wanted to make a Halloweeny video, and here I am. Whoa! Terrifier movies have Art the Clown. He's a terrifying clown. Yes, he is. I love these movies, even though a lot of people say, hey, they're not for me. They're effed up. They're crazy. And yeah, they're a little crazy. I'm sorry, I'm playing it up. But I think there is a lot of value in this franchise and how Damien Leone, how he approaches doing this franchise is very interesting. So the first Terrifier is kind of straightforward. You follow Art the Clown. He terrorizes a couple of women throughout the entire movie, while also just killing anybody in his path. The first Terrifier is gross, dingy, dirty, it's like, wow. It's just like, it looks like it was shot in a back alley, and I don't know if it's in the best of ways. It's definitely unsettling. The first Terrifier unsettled me greatly. I didn't know if I loved it, but I do know that it was different, and I appreciate it for that fact. Terrifier 2, though, this is where they cooked, and this is what I think is interesting. So Terrifier 1 is just Art the Clown. It introduces the villain. Terrifier 2 introduces the hero. I think it's very interesting to intentionally have a franchise where you have the major movie monster, you establish the movie monster on purpose first, and then you introduce the hero that's going to eventually defeat them. Instead of like, when I think of like Halloween, Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are sort of linked at the hip forever from the get-go. But you could look at Friday the 13th, where the first movie, it's the mother. Then it's Jason, the second movie. And then you get, is his name Tommy Jarvis? Played like Lil Corey Feldman in the fourth movie. And that's his, sort of villain guy. Or hero versus villain scenario. There's a lot of ways. Or Nancy and Elm Street, that's the first one. And then they sort of come back later. I love A New Nightmare, by the way. A New Nightmare is like Scream prototype. But we're getting off topic. Anyway, Terrifier 2, what I love about it is it cracks open the lore a little bit. You learn a little bit more about what makes up Art the Clown. You also learn a little bit more about this new super heroine with Sienna Shaw. And what I like about Sienna, which you learn a little bit more in Terrifier 3, which I'll get to in a bit, but what I like about her is she is just a normal girl. She's going to a Halloween party. She's lost her father that she loves very dearly, who is a comic book artist, which you learn later, I guess. Or maybe you learn that in the second one, I forget. But what I like is how much time they actually put into establishing this character. So you do feel for them, and then ultimately are like, especially when you see the first Terrifier, you're like, oh man, I hope this doesn't happen to her. And it gets close every time, but yet she manages sometimes to get away, some unscathed, but sometimes not. Which we'll get to that in a bit. Terrifier 2 is also memorable. So first Terrifier had the super major kill of the saw upside down, the lady upside down naked. When I saw that for the first time, I was like, what the heck is this movie? Because a friend of mine had put it on their Snapchat story when I was in college. Yeah, this is how far back we're going. And I saw that, I was like, what movie is that? And they were like, The Terrifier. I was like, oh my god, I gotta see that. What the heck? But Terrifier 2, there's this teenager girl. I'm gonna describe it if you haven't seen these movies, so spoiler alert. But I think it's worth describing. This girl, she's a teenager, she's just alone, and Art just comes in, and he breaks her arm, skins her back off, scalps her, and tears her face off, and breaks her arm again, or cuts it off. slices her legs and like literally just does every imaginable terrible thing to her, and it's terrible. And then he leaves, and then he comes back with salt and bleach and rubs it into her wounds, and that was pretty effed up. And I was just like, that's probably the closest I've ever felt with like fainting. I've never fainted, and I don't even faint. Terrifier 3, I like, even though Terrifier 3 does have a scene that is definitely trying to be on that scale, I think Terrifier 2 does it for me a little bit more. Terrifier 3 does have it's pretty gross, but it's more gross than shocking, whereas Terrifier 2 is like depraved shocking. Granted, Terrifier 3 has some depraved shocking moments also, but I'm going to get to it now. Terrifier 3. Terrifier 2 also, real quick, you know, Sienna with the sword and the lore with that, and the weird, like, she cuts off Art's head, spoilers, and then you sort of see how he gets to come back in a weird way in Terrifier 3, which is interesting. Terrifier 3, I'm not going to spoil too much, and it's not much to spoil other than it's a Christmas movie. People are weird about him dealing with kids and how that's going to be depicted and how effed up that's going to look. If you're worried about it, I will tell you in the movie it is tastefully done. I don't think they traumatized any kids in the shooting of the movie, except, like, there was one... There's two that you might think, wait, were they okay? But I think from the interviews I've seen, it sounds like they were okay, so I'm fine with it, I guess. But my favorite is, it's in the trailer, and one of the trailers, is when he takes the place of a mall Santa, and you're just like, you're so scared. What is he gonna do to these poor kids? And he does F them up, but not in ways you would be like, oh, I can't look at anything again. No, it's fine. It's not traumatizing for most, I would think. I think Terrifier 3, in a way, sort of takes a step back in some of the gore, in a way. Like, in some ways, the gore effects they do is a little bit more elaborate and expensive, and but in other ways, it is a little more tame, I think. And I think that's on purpose, maybe, to maybe have places to go later on. Like in Terrifier 4, which I had theories about, which I guess I'm getting to now. Spoilers for Terrifier 3, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. I saw it with my friend Casey. We were both thinking, are they going to go to hell? Because of what happens to Sienna's niece or whatever, cousin, whatever. And what happens to her brother. I don't know if I believe her brother's dead, personally. Or if he is dead, I don't believe it's the last we'll see of him. I think we'll see her brother in Terrifier 4, perhaps in hell, which is sad, but also maybe she can save her cousin and her brother. So there's that. What else? I think there are some things in Terrifier 3. I listened to an interview on the Boo Crew, and they had the guy who plays Art the Clown. I forget his name. I'll flash it somewhere. And he talked about how they had to cut some stuff out, which is fine. But I kind of feel like I felt that a little bit. Also, I think it's interesting that this movie is a little shorter than Terrifier 2, and I don't know if I feel like I don't think it's too long. I kind of want a little more, which is fine. I think it's good. Leave them wanting more. I think Terrifier 4 is going to get there. If they actually do go to hell, I think we're going to see some effed up imagery. We're going to see some different things. And I'm really excited for that stuff and the possibilities of it. And I love these movies. I know they're effed up, but the spectacle really is just seeing how they do some of these things. You're just like, what? How'd they do that? And I have no idea how they did it sometimes. Like, they have one where, in Terrifier 2, where they're cutting the guy in the head, like, his head in half, and he's still moving his mouth. I'm like, is that animatronic? Is it, like, two different shots spliced together? I don't know. It's interesting. In this one, I feel like I could see some of the gags a little bit clearer. Maybe it's because they have a little bit more money. But but also they're still pretty good, and they gross me out. So I don't know. I don't know if I can complain. And I love the confidence of this movie, because they already made their money back within the first weekend, and they just know we're gonna have another one. And so they had the confidence of having a little bit of a cliffhanger, which I appreciate. All right, like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye. Ah!